Pat Bostick is with us, one of the best college football analysts in America from the Pitt broadcast, former Pitt quarterback and friend, and he's with us right now. Pat, have you seen Kenny Pickett's hands up close?
I have. I have had the pleasure of seeing and shaking his hands, yes.
Were the fingernails well manicured and everything else? How did they look?
They were. Oftentimes I was at practice and he had that glove on, which seemed to have really helped him, and no one's really talking about.
Well, then let's give you a chance to talk about it then. You think the glove is a substantial, significant thing, huh?
I do. I just like receivers wearing gloves helps them catch the ball. I think a quarterback that maybe doesn't have the biggest hands in the world, putting a glove on and increasing the traction of his hand on the ball would help a quarterback that's become adept at throwing it. And the width of a hand, it is important. I think there are a lot of people that put stock into it. But the most important two fingers for throwing the football is the thumb securing the ball and the pointer finger is the last finger on the ball. And if you can increase the traction between that finger and the laces, the top of the football, you're going to spin it better. And I think Kenny has proved that over the last year and a half since he's worn that glove, that the glove has made a big difference.
Pat, did Kenny ever, in your experience being around him, express any discomfort or worry about throwing a differently shaped NFL ball?
No, and I've watched him throw an NFL ball, whether it was getting ready to prep for the Senior Bowl or whatever, and it doesn't look any different. It really isn't that much different. Again, it's more about your ability to control the top of the ball. And again, I think the glove has, he'll downplay the glove, which I think is just confidence and swagger. Mm-hmm. But I think the glove gave him a different level of confidence with the football and throwing the ball. And I think the results speak for themselves since he slipped that thing on.
Pat Bostick with us. Now, why didn't you wear a glove then? You just have colossal hands, Pat? Is that the story there? You just have massive hands where the glove never was even a factor or consideration?
No, I do not have big hands. I have maybe almost 9.25. But
he's got a pair of Mulseys.
Yeah. So I saw your video, by the way. That was epic. I wish I would have. I remember I had a little bit more difficulty controlling intermediate to short throws with it on because it stuck to my hand longer. But Kenny got, if anything, more accurate with the glove. And I can see with practice and committing to it over the course of the season and an off season how you can become more used to where that ball is going to release from and how it's going to come off your hand. But the one thing I do remember is I could throw it probably 7 to 8 yards farther with a glove on.
Glove technology wasn't as good back then. You and I are similar.
What do you mean glove technology?
Dude,
what are we talking about?
They did not come out with
gloves have advanced that much in 10 years?
Pat, would you agree that, you and I are similar in age? Would you agree that even back 10, 12, 15 years ago, gloves were not as tacky, they were not as sticky, you couldn't get quite the kind of grip on the ball probably you can with today's gloves?
Yeah, the first guy to really wear one at quarterback was Kurt Warner.
Right.
That I recall really wearing a glove. The problem with, we used to wear cutters, the gray cutter gloves.
Right.
And they were either too tacky or not tacky enough. And one thing you'll notice if you watch the North Carolina game this year when it got wet out, Kenny actually went to a different glove. And they actually make quarterback gloves now that are specific to throwers.
Oh, wow.
As opposed to stickier versions for the guys that catch the ball.
Now, Pat, what do you make of the ball security questions, though, because of the hand size? Is that a legitimate thing in your mind? Oh, he's more prone to fumbles and things like that because he can't do the pump fake thing that Big Ben could do with the bigger hands, can't hold on to the ball as well, can't get a grip on it as well, even with the gloves. Ball security when hit. Your thoughts on that?
I think ball security when hit has more to do with having two hands on the ball than it does how big your one hand is. And I think, Kenny's ball security, any quarterback's ball security, when they're under duress and they come out of a throwing position, is that you start to run, right? And your natural reaction is for your arms to split. And then when you get one hand on the ball, a defensive lineman, he's taught to rake the football. But if you've got two hands on it and it's still within your breastplate, it's harder to get that football out. So I think it has more to do with technique and fundamentals than it does one hand size, because if Aaron Donald comes around the edge and you have one-handed, I don't care if you have King Kong's paw, he's going to get that thing out.
Like Jim Drunkenmiller, who was 11 3/4.
Yeah. I mean, Kenny had 26 fumbles in his career, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And that's not an incredibly large number. And if I recall, at least 2 or 3 of them, because until his senior year, he really didn't know how to slide, and he would dive head first. And even I think in the Western Michigan game this year, Western Michigan lost. He had a fumble diving head first with the ball out.
Yep.
Someone gets a hand on it, it comes out. It wasn't pocket fumbles.
Oh, yeah, Mark Sanchez has like 10.5-inch hands, and he had the butt fumble, so I'm really not going to lose too much sleep over that correlation. What do you think Kenny's going to do that surprises everybody when he works out today, Pat? Like, give me like an area where you think Kenny's going to blow people away. Is he going to just be unbelievably fast? What's he going to do?
Yeah, it'll be interesting because, he mentioned this in his press conference. You're throwing to guys you really haven't thrown to. Now they're really good players. But the thing that, to me separated Kenny, and I think Desmond Ridder said he's the most mentally ready. I totally disagree. Kenny's the only one in the top 5 quarterbacks that played in the pro system. He's played under center. He understands anticipating throws. It's not RPO where it's, ride the fake and then throw to a wide open slant. And I'm not taking anything away from those guys, but Kenny's anticipation and confidence in anticipating throws was what separated him. He doesn't have the strongest arm, but and I'm not comparing him to Joe Montana, but either to Joe Montana or Tom Brady. But can you process information and get the football out on time to a spot where your receiver's the only one who can get it? It's hard to show that in a combine or in a pro day, but I think anticipation and accuracy are 2 of his strong suits, and it's something he'll show. And I think he's more athletic than people give him credit for.
Well, look at the fake slide play. That would account for what you're talking about there. That was extremely athletic.
Creating plays, extending plays, finding guys. I mean, that was obviously the fall was a historic season for Pitt. But without Kenny Pickett, I'm not sure what that season would have been. Certainly, the quarterback has a huge impact on any team, good or bad. But he made a lot of plays out of the dirt. So while his anticipation and timing is really good, his ability to extend plays and not lose his downfield focus was probably equally impressive.
Pat, we're talking to Pat Bostick, Pitt football analyst, former Pitt quarterback, friend of the show. Pat, when you have the things that you can't get a measurement on, how bad does a guy want it? How hard is he going to work? That's Aaron Donald too. Not only is he a genetic freak, but he also is just insanely motivated. Do you see those kinds of attributes and traits in Kenny Pickett?
Yeah, I do. Like it's you just watch him play, and again, I thought it was to another level this year. You watch him practice. That's probably the sight that people got in the Senior Bowl, those scouts that were down there, was, his level of intensity and focus in practice. It just, he demanded excellence from everyone around him, and most importantly himself. And he's a guy that, whose intensity you have to match. So, but he's not a hothead. He's not a guy that's going to just yell and scream. So, he earns respect, and then, but he utilizes that respect to influence really well. And I just, the kid bet on himself, after being projected as between a 4th and 6th round pick, and turned himself into the best quarterback in the draft. And, you don't do that unless you really want it.
The best quarterback in the draft. How about that? Malik Willis, Desmond Ridder, Sam Howell. You saw Howell, Pat. No equivocation there. You think he's the best one, huh?
I think he's the most ready. Yeah, I do. Is he the most talented? Probably not. Is he the most athletic? Probably not. Does he have the best arm? Probably not. But in terms of plug and play, ready to go, and a guy you can depend on, and you don't have to, you're not taking a risk. I think Kenny Pickett's a darn safe bet.
Pat, what do you say, like, on that related note, when people levy, it's not a criticism, but they say it as, a point in fact, yeah, Kenny Pickett might be the most ready, but we wonder how high his ceiling is. What would you say to those people who would argue maybe Kenny Pickett's very close to what he's going to be as a best-case scenario finished product versus maybe a guy that's a crapshoot like Malik Willis where the athleticism's off the page, and if he actually reaches his potential, it's going to be spectacular?
I mean, I think there's been more examples of guys that they don't know how low their floor is that don't pan out than guys you're not sure how high their ceiling is. I mean, you know what you're getting with Kenny, and it's a position where if you take a risk and you fail, your franchise is set back. So listen, certainly he doesn't have the awe-inspiring size or arm talent of a Trevor Lawrence, but he's a guy that can come in and play from day one. He's not going to be phased. He's played just a boatload of snaps in a pro system. And I see the comparisons, right? Could he be, could he be a Kirk Cousins? Could he be? I don't know. But I know this. What you see is what you get with Kenny, and I just think the risk is far less. In a draft class where everyone's saying it's not, quarterback friendly, or it's not the best quarterback class, I think that exacerbates or amplifies the importance of not taking risk, especially when you're betting on that guy being a guy that could maybe play from day one.
If we put Pat Bostick in gym shorts and a T-shirt right now, and Ed, you go through the quarterback drills at the combine, how far are you throwing that pigskin, Pat? You still can get it?
God.
Still can hum it 50 yards on a line right in there? No problem?
I think I could probably throw it 40 on the line. I probably could get 50 with, a crow hop and maybe a trampoline. Yeah, it wouldn't be pretty. But I tell you what, I give it hell.
How about the 40? Could we get you under 5.5 seconds, you think? What do you make of that?
I think me and Rich Eisen would have a hell of a race.
So Rich is at like 5.96. You're beating Rich.
Come on,
You're
Pat.
beating Rich.
Don't
Come
be
on.
so self-effacing. You could do that.
Yeah, I would beat Rich, but it'd be a dogfight out of the blocks.
How about 225 bench press? What are you getting there, Pat? 10 or 20?
Less than 0.
Less than 0?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I've got a degenerative right shoulder.
Oh, well.
There's no way that would when I say less than 0, it'd probably lead to me having a concave chest because my shoulder would just give out. The bar would collapse my both lungs.
Now if part of the combine was how close can you stick a wedge from 90 yards, I think Pat Bostick is at this point putting it inside of 5 feet?
Yeah, no doubt. That's where I feel confident. Inside 90, I may be there in 3 trying to salvage par, but I'm putting that sucker in distance to save 4.
Pat Bostick, one of the best college football analysts in America, bar none, and a guy who's betting on Kenny Pickett. Thanks, Pat.
Thanks, Pat.
Appreciate it, fellas.
There you go.